Welcome to So You Want to Be a Real Estate Agent. Are you evaluating your career in real estate? Feel like you're ready for a fresh start? Or ready to take your career to the next level? This is your podcast. Welcome back to So You Want to Be a Real Estate Agent. This is a special episode of the New Agent Chronicles. And I specifically carved this episode out. We actually weren't originally planning to podcast today, but Tina has been having such amazing success. Some would call it luck, but let me tell you, it ain't luck. What's that saying? There's some saying that is like, luck is when talent meets opportunity or something like that. And there's another famous quote, this might have been Abraham Lincoln, that is, it's funny, I find the harder I work, the luckier I get. You're like a perfect example of that. So I really wanted to take this episode to spotlight what you are doing, because I know if you guys who are watching and listening implement even like a little piece, she's gonna drop a lot of gold today. So pick up one piece of it, put it into your business and watch what happens. She said right before we were about to podcast, she's like, I think the audience is going to be like, she is crazy. And I'm like, crazy in the best possible way, because really, if you watch what she's doing or listen to what she's doing, and feel free to reach out, because you're more than happy, I know, to share tips and tools and, ideas. She's a very creative thinker. But I think the thing I want you guys to really notice is how she gets into action. Tina has part of her, like what I call the X factor for being successful in real estate, is an inherent sense of urgency, like to get stuff done. And when I say sense of urgency, I'm not saying like make everything a fire drill or make everything like a, last minute emergency kind of thing. That is not a sense of urgency. That's misplaced priorities. What I mean is you have a great sense of what to prioritize and you go right after the things that are most important. Having that instinct or developing it, if you don't already have it, is crucial in success in real estate. So, all right, let me just give Tina the floor for a second. We're going to really concentrate on a couple things. Her most recent wins, so I want to ask you about those. And we're going to specifically talk about wins from her most recent open house. So we're going to call this episode, we're going to say something like open house success. It's more than just open house, but we are going to talk about how Tina has experienced success from open house. So Tina, give the audience a little bit of an update since we last recorded of what you've done. First of all, how many listings, how long have you been a licensed real estate agent? Let me start there.
I've been a licensed real estate agent since August of 2024, but I did not start working until mid-January.
Right.
That's when I actually came to this office and joined it, and I quit my full-time job and made this my full-time job.
Right. So in the background, she was teaching and learning and getting up to speed with all of the systems and getting onboarded and all that stuff. Listening to podcasts, listening to Tom Ferry content, and really getting exposed to like absorbing all the things that she could to get ready for success in real estate. Made the jump bravely, let go of that life raft and just swam on over into the real estate pool in January. So from January until now, we are in April right now. How many listings have you signed?
Okay, listings, I have, I think 4 now, but buyer's agreements, I think I have a total of 8.
And how many have you closed?
I don't know, I feel like I've closed 4.
I think you've closed 4, yeah. So let that sink in for a second. You have as many signed agreements as most agents have an entire year of real estate in your first quarter in real estate. So that's like, I know some of you guys are gonna be like, that's astounding. How did she do it? And let me just tell you, we don't pay for leads at this company. We teach our agents how to lead generate. And Tina has taken what we have taught her and run with it and then put it on steroids. So Tina, talk us through your most recent wins and tell the audience how you made those happen.
Sure. So I think when we last left off, I was talking to you about an expired listing or canceled listing that I had found, and I went to that person's house and knocked on their house and talked through the Ring
Yes.
camera. And I was telling you, I ended up getting the listing. So there's been a whole other part to that. So part of this has also been to find that person a rental. So guess what? I just signed my first rental, which is super exciting too. It was really fun just doing it, learning everything. But actually, you know, the most important part of this client and the process to get everything in order and get her house sold was for me to first find her a temporary or a permanent home to live in, so we could have the house to, you know, get it ready, paint, stage, all of that. And she's got dogs and kids and a lot going on, so she didn't want people coming through her house all the time and, you know, bothering her. She just wanted to be free of that and really stress-free, which was important to her. So in my opinion, the best solution to this was to find her a rental earlier than she anticipated. And we talked about what was important to her. And I remember I had a full day here and I just went home and I decided, actually before I left, Meredith had mentioned to me, or maybe it was Chris, that I should check for rent by owner listings. And so I went home and I started doing some research and I was looking at those as well as other rentals in the area. And I have to tell you that most of them say no dogs. And as all of us know who have dogs, which is both of us, they're our babies and they're really important to us. So we're not gonna leave them behind or give them to somebody else. So that's priority for me to find her a place that allows dogs. And to be honest with you, most of these homes did not. So that was a big, you know, obstacle to overcome. So I went through the list of what was important to her, and I'm telling you this because I think it's really important for you when you're talking to your client to find out what's important, so you don't end up showing like 5, 6, 10 things to someone, because that'll be frustrating for you and for them. So I found out exactly what was important to her and what worked in her lifestyle now and what she would like to improve on.
Let me pause you for a second there, because what you just said is so important, and I want you guys to really hear this. Finding out what is important to the client, not overlaying with what you would want if it's you, and not skipping this step and making assumptions by not asking enough questions. You know that phrase, buyers are liars? That's where that comes from. That's because the agent hasn't asked enough questions to find out what is really important. So they think they're showing properties to the buyer and they're showing that they like, and the buyer is like, well, why are you showing me this? This is not what I wanted at all. But there's like a communication breakdown that has occurred, or not enough communication has happened to find out what's really important to the buyer. And that's what happens. And sometimes that leads to what we call estrangement over time, where enough of those mismatches occur. And the buyer goes, you know what? You don't get me. I'm not going to even work with you anymore. I'm going to go over here to this person who I met at an open house, or somebody referred to me, or whatever, who seems to understand what I want. So what's your method for figuring out what a buyer wants, or a renter in this case?
So, I mean, we sat down at her house and I took a lot of notes and I asked her questions about ideally what would be her dream place to rent, and what would be important for her kids, and for the dog, and for her husband. Because we want to consider everybody in all of this, right? And try to see if we can find something that fits all of the family's needs. So when asking her that, I found out that obviously dogs was very important, and they were larger dogs, so we needed to make sure that, you know, the weight wasn't an issue, because you'll see that a lot of times it'll say up to 40 pounds or something. And some of the other things that were important was proximity to school within walking distance. She wanted her kids to be able to walk to school and, you know, be able to do that on their own without her having to drive them all the time. She needed an extra space for an office. They also wanted to have an area that the boys could hang out in. Open kitchen was important to her. And then having some sort of green area or grassy area where they could go outside and hang out, and a deck because they love to barbecue. So again, you know, you put your wish list together for someone, right? You know, and I always like tell people, I'll do my best to get you 99%. Okay, I'll never get. It's hard to get 100%, and I've learned this. It really is. There's always going to be something, right? But I'm going to tell you some really cool things that happened during this process, and keep these in mind when you go do your next rental. So, after all of that, I went and I did my own research, and I found this one house that was literally less than, I don't know, it was 2 streets over from the school. You could easily walk there in a 7-minute walk. And it was in a cul-de-sac, which I always think kids love, and it's safe, right? So that was definitely a plus. Had the deck, it had the bonus room, it had a great room for her, had a room for an office, open kitchen. I will tell you, so what they did say was that it had 4 full bathrooms, but when we went on the tour, it ended up having 2 full bathrooms, and the other 2 were both powder rooms. So that was one thing that, didn't meet all of her requirements, right? Because she wanted her own space, and the boys wanted their own space as well, each one. But once we looked at everything overall, and things started checking, all of her boxes started checking, it looked like an 85% fit, I would say. And then we kind of looked at everything, and here's what was a little odd about this particular rental. They had the washer and dryer in the kitchen pantry. So literally you had no pantry, and as you all know, we gotta have something to store all of our things, right? But there was a huge basement, and that's where all the utilities were, and I figured there would be a way to get a line going and possibly move that, right? So that was on my list, and we kept on walking through, and I'm listening to what she's saying, because if you listen and tune in to her, she said, wow, this is really weird, having a washer and dryer, there's no pantry. I guess I could use one of the one of the shelves and drawers that's for plates and cups, but that's still going to be odd because we have a lot of stuff. So I'm hearing her, and I'm like, yep, just listening to her. Then we went upstairs, and we discovered the bathrooms being an issue, right? But what was nice was there were 4 bedrooms upstairs, 2 full baths, 1 for her and 1 for the boys, but it was smaller with 1 sink, right? So what she didn't like was the shower head. It was really quite old and small, and we want to have a really nice hot shower, and we want to feel that pressure, and she turned it on and it wasn't there. So again, I noted that in the back of my mind as well. So looked at everything else, and really could have been almost perfect, except remember, she's got the dogs. We need to have a fenced in area. So it was a partially fenced in yard, not fully. But really lovely home, I gotta tell you. One of the things that we all fell in love with this home was how there was so much for everybody. Like for her, there was a private area that she could do yoga. For the kids, there was a fishing pond around the house. Then there was a built-in fire pit with built-in stone seating outside, which was such a cool factor just to gather around with your friends. So, coming from a townhouse to a house, it's just a different story because everything's, wider instead of going up and tall. So you just gain a lot more space. Oh, and another thing that was important was for us to find a place for her that could fit a piano. So again, we walked in, and I'm remembering, I have all this written down, but it's in my head anyway. I'm like, oh, okay, this is going to work for this. This is going to work for that. How is this going to work? And I'm running it through, and I'm just letting her go about, look at everything. And then we're talking, and then, she really likes the house, but there's a few things that could be changed. So we have that discussion, and I always say it never hurts to ask. If you don't ask, you'll never know. So I picked up the phone, I called the landlord, I told them, hey, I've got a client that's really interested, but we're almost there. If you can move this washer and dryer out and put it back in the basement, and if you can give me some shelves, and if you could replace the 2 shower heads with higher pressure, and I'd be happy to send you the link to one on Amazon that's not that expensive. And if you would allow my client to be able to just further either invisible fence or fence just the side of the yard, it was just like little areas, tiny areas that were missing it, so you just didn't want the dog to slip away. I was like, we have a deal, and this deal would be for 3 years. Guess what? They agreed to everything that I asked.
So like you said, you gotta ask. And what I love too about what you did is, first of all, you tuned in so carefully to what the client needed, and you remembered all of that, and you focused on those things, and you went right to problem solving. So you went right to, because so many people would say, I can't live here, there's no pantry, or I can't live here, the fence isn't all the way around. Most people would do something about the shower heads, but those things. But moving the washer dryer, that's a big thing, and most agents would be reticent to ask about that, but like you just said, if you don't ask, you don't know. And the 3-year lease, obviously, that's a real benefit to a landlord not having to re-rent the house between tenants for 3 whole years. That's awesome. So they agreed.
Yeah, and I went in knowing that it was going to be a 3-year lease, so I know that you could present it properly, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, it makes more sense for someone to say yes to those things.
If you're interested in learning how to become that go-to local real estate expert all the sellers call to give you their listings, read Farming for Real Estate Agents. You can pick up your copy today on Amazon, Kindle, on Audible, or anywhere you get books.
But what was nice, about all this was just, if someone keeps objecting to something, instead of just totally crossing it out and be like, all right, yeah, no, this isn't gonna work. Just like think about everything for a minute, maybe when you're out of the rental, and then just put your thoughts together on, if they really did like it and it was just a few things, see if you can make it work for them, but you gotta think out of the box and you gotta ask.
And what you said too, is what I was gonna say is, with the 99%, like you already set it up for her that there's going to be 1% that we just can't, because no house is 1,000% perfect, even a brand new build. And also, you looked for the things that were most important in terms of fit to her, and you figured out how to adjust the things that weren't to take it from the 85 to the 99. So you're like, okay, if we can get these things done, you're at 99%, this is going to work for you. Awesome job. So the other thing I want to say is, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I'm pretty sure as you were doing this, you didn't go, let's just wait on getting your house going. Let's just wait till we find the thing, which also many agents do, is they go, okay, well, as soon as we find the place, then we'll put the pieces in motion for getting your house on the market. You did not sleep on that, if I'm right, because I think I went over there long before you started looking at rentals for her. So we went over and we walked through the house. You brought the stager in, you got contractors in, so you weren't saying like full steam ahead with everything, but you got all the pieces lined up so that the moment that she found the house she was going to reside in, and we knew the timeline, you could flip that switch and get all of the moving pieces starting to be coordinated to get the house ready to list. Is that right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And guys, you know what I want to tell you? That this was literally within the week that I met her and signed.
And let me tell you, she is like your biggest fan. Every time I see her, I talk to her, she's like, oh my gosh, Tina's my hero. Tina, like she loves, I think she's like your friend, like you consider her a friend now.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I know that I will be friends with her for a lifetime. You meet people, you connect, and I'm there for her, and we've been going through all of this, but I can tell you, what was important was to be diligent and on top of everything. If you want to be better, if you want to stand out, you got to be different, and you got to be on top of everything that needs to go, and you got to communicate. So I would send her emails. This is what I'm doing. I'm getting this done, blah, blah, blah. And I would send her that. Like, for example, the staging quote and all of that, or the painter, the referrals, the items that I wanted her to purchase. Like, everything's kind of going along at the same time, but you don't want to overwhelm them either. Just try to keep it as, this is what I have done for you for upgrades. This is the contractors. So don't send them like 1,000 emails, but just show them that how hard you're working for them on both ends. Yes. But remember, I always feel like people come to me because they feel like I take stress away. And I think being that person that's confident and takes control of the situation, because look, most people would probably sit back and be like, all right, let me know when you get your rental. We can get started.
Absolutely they would. Absolutely they would. Yeah, they don't push it forward. You're exactly right. And that level of confidence, like I always say, this is not something people do every single day. Like we do this every day, but the general public does not buy and sell houses every day. So for them, it's this giant, like unknown, mysterious process that feels incredibly overwhelming. And a lot of people just do nothing because they don't even know how to do it. So when you meet somebody like that, take their hand, go, I'm with you every step of the way. In fact, I'm going to lead you, guide you. Don't worry, I got you. Take that stress away, like you said. Complete game changer. And like you also said, being very communicative and moving the process along, being responsive. So I want to pivot now to talk about the open house because so Tina did an open house this past weekend. You never know how busy open houses are going to be. This one was crazy busy. And interestingly, it wasn't that busy the day before, but the day you held it open was incredibly busy. In fact, so busy that you weren't able to have significant conversations with some of the people that were there. Had we known, we would have had somebody else there with you, which is always a good idea, guys, if you think you're going to have a busy open house. But in this case, you guys have heard me talk about open house scripting on this show before, and I usually say that exit conversation is the make or break moment where you have either built rapport with the person or you haven't, and if you haven't, you kind of lost the fish off the line. But if you have, then you've set yourself up for a good conversation following the open house and a potential client. Tina proved me a little bit wrong here because she came back with this beautiful summary of everybody who came through the open house, and a couple of them you didn't get to have significant conversations with. So tell everybody, first of all, how many people came through your open house, how many people you had appointments with after the open house, and how did you convert people that you did not get to have a significant conversation with during the open house?
Okay, so the open house was on Sunday and it was 2 hours long, guys, 1 to 3. I had over 40 people come to this open house. I will tell you that half of them were neighbors, and really, it really was about 50-50 here. And the other half were looking for a home, and it could have been a home that was a cottage, a house, or a townhouse, because what we were offering and presenting kind of fit a lot of people's needs, right? We were selling a cottage. So,
which, by the way, was under contract. I have to point that one out too, which had just gone under contract like hours before. And again, a lot of people would have just gone, we're going to cancel the open house. We don't do that because, it's an early contract. Things happen. And also, we had advertised it. So Tina gamely went out there, did the open house, which again, remember, we had changed the status on. So you might think, that's going to kill the open house traffic. No, not at all. Not the case. Sorry to interrupt. Keep going.
No, she's absolutely right. So, just a little bit before the open house started, I was told it was under contract, and I was like, I'm still going to do it, and we're just going to go forward. And I'm so glad I did, because when I got there, there was already 2 people, like one couple and another person waiting. And I got there 15 minutes early, guys, so I had already done everything else, placed my sign. So when I got there, I thought I was going to have extra time just to check out the place and make sure all the lights were on, but they were there, and I'm never going to make someone, first of all, wait at the door while I get things ready. I'm just letting you know, I welcomed them. I said, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're here. I was like, let me let you in. And I'm not going to talk about the fact that I wasn't ready immediately. I'm like, come on in, check out this place, So they all came in. I got my business card. I handed it to them. I had them fill out the form. It was 3 people at this point, but interesting enough, we were all in kind of a conversation together. Some people were there looking for a parent. Some people were looking for themselves, but they were they didn't reside here. They were from North Carolina or something, right? So, I'm talking to them, and guys, the most important thing for me here is, 1, to really find out what this person's needs are. What are they here for? Is this going to fit? Is this something that they like? And, are they working with someone, or have they not signed a buyer's agreement? and their contact information, basically, and a little bit of a story if I could hear anything. So I say this because all of a sudden people started just coming in, and I could not keep up. Like, I really did my best, but I made sure to at least smile and say hello, and I would say, could you please sign in? I'll be right with you. Or, I would say something, and then I would go back and talk to the other person that was just circling backwards. So in the middle of all 40 people plus going through, I found out from people what they were looking for, how long they'd been looking, and started making the connection. And then, unfortunately, I did have to let them know that the house was under contract, which, as you can imagine, people were not happy about, But, I did say that we would absolutely take all of your information, and if, something falls through, you'll be the first, everybody here that's visited, that's interested, we will let you all know. But I also want to let you know that we do have several properties coming up in the next few weeks. And I would love to be able to show them to you if that's of interest to you. And basically, I got their information. I put a little asterisk on the back of each one for the people that were really excited when I told them that. Because some people just lit up and they're like, absolutely. And I said, one of the things is when you work with our company, we tend to know what's coming before it actually hits the market. We typically have, and we do have currently, the most listings in this neighborhood. So if anyone can find you a house, it's us. And I leave it at that. That's it. That's, and they will say, oh my gosh, when I was driving here, I saw so many signs. That weekend, we had 3 open houses, guys. Our signs were everywhere, So people really appreciated that. But I also made sure to tell them, please don't feel like you need to leave now. I mean, it's always good to, explore an open house, take a look, see what works for you and what doesn't.
Great.
Yeah. Because, there's just something to learn from going into all these, what you do want or what you don't want, which I did hear in conversations after.
That was good. Yeah. Good to say. Okay, so you have all these people come through. Some you only got to smile and say hi to,
yes.
Right?
Yes.
And here's the thing. You have now had buyer appointments with 2 of those people, is that right? That you had just to smile and say hi?
3.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so you have to tell this story because so many agents struggle with this. I can't even tell you. I know this probably seems like second nature to you because it's just who you are to make this work. But the vast majority of agents go from the open house and do not convert. Even with 40 people there, not one person will they convert. And certainly not people that they didn't even really get to talk to. So how did you jump over what feels like a hurdle for most agents to create a warm enough connection to score an appointment and then sign buyers who you hadn't even really talked to at the open house?
Okay, so I think the first thing is when I spoke to them and I told them it wasn't available, I basically told them not to worry, that we do have other homes coming on the market and I'd love to show you these other homes. Why don't we set up a time to meet at my office?
So did you do this during or after? Because I'm talking about the people you didn't even really get to talk to.
Okay.
So maybe they heard you say to somebody that's not available anymore.
Let me give you an example of one of the people.
Yeah.
Okay, so this one couple, actually she came in, her husband didn't come in, I met him later. She came in and I said hi to her and she told me that she'd been renting for 2 years and her lease was up. But she would love to find a home here in this neighborhood. And I said, great, I'd love to talk to you more about that. Please take a look around. I said, but I'm sad to tell you that this home just went under contract. And she was not happy at all. Her face just, and I said, okay. I said, look, I do have some stuff coming up, but I have to finish up the open house. For this person, I said, would you mind if I reach out to you after? And she was like, okay. And then she walked around and then I saw her a little bit later, looking downstairs, but she didn't look happy, I'll tell you that. So then she left. I didn't get to say goodbye, okay? At that time, I was entertaining someone else that was here from New Mexico and I was talking to them and, guys, I'm doing this fast. I'm asking, they're telling me their timeline really quick. We're here visiting, we're trying to find a place, but we haven't sold our place yet. So again, I'm kind of prioritizing in my mind. Okay, they haven't sold.
Right.
Okay. Then I see another couple come in, and there's probably at this point 10 people, and cutest couple ever. Like you could just see, like they're just perfect. Like, and you can see the love there. It looks like they must be buying their first home together, right? So I was getting to talk to them, and sure enough, they had just gotten engaged. And yes, they were planning a wedding, which is really stressful, but they're trying to find a house at the same time. And ding, ding, ding. When I heard this, I was like, guys, I can totally help you with this. First of all, I was a wedding planner for a long, long time before, so I know exactly what you're going through. And I said, and I know the importance of being able to find that new place. And I said, honestly, before the wedding, so you can just have all those gifts sent over to your new place. You don't even have to bring them over. But we joked a little bit, but very brief conversation, guys. But I told them that this house had sold. And again, they were not happy. I said, but not to worry. I definitely have a few things I'd love to show you. Would you mind filling this form out for me? And I'll circle back with you. They filled it out. They went and looked around at the house, which I was really glad they did because it helped me figure out what they were looking for. Done. They left. Talking to someone else. Blah, 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 blah. Everybody comes in and leaves. All right. Now it's about 4 o'clock, right? It's time for me to send a few texts, okay, or calls just to let people know I heard them. But I was sorry I didn't say goodbye. But I would really be happy to show them a private showing of some homes that are coming up in the next few weeks that I knew. And I felt that could really check off all those boxes and fit their needs. So if that works for them, let's set up a time tomorrow, if it works. And come into my office and we'll get you there because as you see how the market is, boom, this house is listed and it's sold. So I'll do my best to get you in before anybody else. That's a key thing to say. Right now they know they came to this open house, they're really upset, it already sold. How can you fix that? The best thing you can do is be in front of them and say, hey, guess what? I've got some other listings. You don't have a realtor yet. Come to my office. I'll be able to show you these listings if you're able to, work with me. I can get you in faster.
Yeah.
So, guys, I had 3 people come in. And guess what? 2 have signed the buyer's agreement. The 3rd I'm waiting on because she had to leave the state, but I already made an appointment for tomorrow with my colleague because I'm out of town tomorrow to show her a house.
Beautiful.
And I will tell you that I showed her a house on Monday. And I listened to what she was telling me about what she liked and what she didn't. And then I found a house that I think is going to be absolutely perfect for her. But again, I didn't say, oh, I'm not going to be here. How about next week? Never. I will not do that. That's why we all work together. We work as a team. So that's really important that you have people that you work with that you can trust. Immediately, I sent, a message to my colleague and I said, hey, I'm going out of town. Could you please show it? And he said, absolutely. I contacted the realtor of the other property and made sure, asked them some questions and just got some feedback about the listing so I could also share that information again to tell her. And then I followed up with, after the phone call, a text just wrapping up our conversation and who she was going to meet with, at what time, and if there's anything, else that she needed, she can reach out to me.
Beautiful, beautiful. And one thing I want to point out quickly is note that she said she hasn't signed the buyer agency agreement yet. I just want to make it very clear that that's because the listing she showed was her listing.
Right.
And the other one now she'll have to sign to see the next one. So the understanding for me did, but no buyer agency yet, but we'll get it. And I love you, just don't let any grass grow on it. You're just I'm getting it scheduled, I'm doing it, I'm reaching out to the other agent. And collaboratively, we kind of all work together because we had found out from this other agent about one coming on, which I then told you. So then,
right. It was like the telephone, right?
Yeah.
We each tell each other, but yeah, exactly.
Like they had networked, and even the agent was like, "Oh my gosh, I've worked with you guys before. I love you."
Yeah.
So all of like those things that are so important to be really closely connected with the real estate community locally and have good relationships with the people who are in your local market area as well, so that you do get your person in ahead of time if you can. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Okay. All right, so let me ask you, because I wanted to, I don't know which buyer this was, but I wanted to share something I heard you say, and you may have shared this with me, but I think I may have heard you say it while the person was here. You said something to the effect of, like, don't worry, I got you, I am 100% confident I can find you the house you want, right? Mm-hmm. And that is such a phrase of comfort to people, because in a market like this, even if you have a market that has inventory, most of the inventory that's there, if it's sitting, isn't a match for the buyers who are out there. And some of those buyers are getting frustrated because they're not finding the house that they want, even though the market inventory might have picked up. So what you do is so different, and we'll do this like fully in another episode, but I just want to give you guys a little bit of a glimpse. First of all, what made you feel confident in a market like ours, which, by the way, ours is a very seller-favored market. Like Tina says, when it goes on the market, it goes under contract right away, gets snapped up. There's tons of buyers for almost every single listing. So what made you feel confident and say, don't worry, I'm 100% confident I can find you the house that you want?
Well, I mean, there's a couple things to that. One, I work with an amazing team, and we consistently have at least 10, if not 16, maybe 17, homes going. So honestly, we're all working really hard all the time, and new properties are coming. So I'm not going to take a day for granted here. Okay. I got to tell you, somebody tells me they're looking for something, and if it's not there, I'm going to find it. Okay.
She does.
I will. I am going to call every person on that street or in that model. Okay, I'm going to send buyer looking letters to all those people. I like to combat things in different ways, because what works for one person doesn't work for another. And I really find doing things like with leaving voicemails or sending texts, talking to people, flyers outside, not door knocking. I mean, I honestly do it all.
Yeah.
I don't feel weird doing stuff like that, and I know a lot of people do. I think the comfort in it, and I was talking to some people about this, is I personally feel, and I want you to feel, that I feel I'm the best at my job. And I honestly, genuinely feel you working with me, I'll be able to get you exactly what you want. I'm going to listen to you, I'm going to fight for you, and I'm going to make sure that you're 100% satisfied. I'll find a solution to whatever it is to get that 85% to the 99. But I don't stop. As you guys know, I have like a tunnel vision, and when I hear this is what they want, everything else kind of fades in the background, and I just go. And I am not going to show someone something that's completely going to be a waste of time. That's one thing you've got to understand, is time is so important, not only for you, but for them. Keep everything and value their time and value your own. So find what works. Also, be flexible, okay? If someone says, I can meet with you tomorrow and you can't, guys, you got to change your schedule around. You got to be flexible, okay? Because if you're saying no, someone else is saying yes. Remember that.
Well said.
So I will do what it takes to work with them and work around it. And maybe that's just me, or because I'm newer, but I mean, that's the service I want. So the main thing is treat people how you want to be treated. And I wouldn't want to be put on a back burner if I'm looking for a home in this market. I want to know I'm important. I want to know that you're going after that for me. And I do want to have confidence in you. I want to see your track record too. Let me know. Tell me some stories, some things that you've done, because I do share that with my clients, like how passionate I am about helping them. But also we have a lot of connections here, and that's important too. All of this, but again, the most important thing is listen. And if you listen, whatever you show them, make sure it fits that need, okay? Or be able to give them something that could fit that need.
So good. Man, you just dropped so much gold right there, Tina. And I think what you said so eloquently, you said a lot of things very eloquently, but one is that really excellent businesses understand that clients want their problem solved and they want to be made to feel special. And that's what you do so well, and why you're successful, and why everything fades into the background when someone says, go get this for me or do this for me, is because you are client service focused. And that, guys, above all, is what leads to success in real estate. If you can let everything else fade, because we get lots of wins of our own when we put our clients first, but if you can go with that mindset that the client comes first and you'll do anything within the law to help that client win, that is going to stand you in huge success as you move forward. So you've got that in spades, and so many other, obviously, natural talents and abilities too. I mean, this is just so you guys know, this is like Tina. She comes to the office. She's here every day, 9 o'clock for our check-in. She gets to work making her phone calls. She looks through the MLS. She's checking on opportunities for people. And if she's called somebody who one of her buyers goes, that house, that's the one that I want, she'll go, couldn't get him on the phone, texted him, got no response, emailed, nothing, I'll be right back. And you just go. She leaves, she goes, knocks on the door, talks to the person, maybe the gardener, maybe the painter, maybe whoever's there, but makes a connection. You don't stop until you make that connection and you figure out whether it's a possibility or whether it is. And if it isn't, you'll pivot. You're not going to like drill it into the ground. But if it's at all a possibility, and oftentimes it is, and that's what you found so beautifully, is you find possibilities where other people would think none exist. And that is partially why you are so successful amongst many other things. So great. Tina, thank you so much for that.
I just want to say one more thing.
Please.
Guys, remember at the beginning I told you that half of the people were neighbors and the other half were looking for a home? Don't take that for granted. So what I did was I have all the neighbors' information, and my plan is the day of settlement, when I find out and it's available to me to announce what this home closed at, guess who's calling all of those neighbors to let them know? I am. I'm going to be their resource for real estate. I'm going to be the one that I want them to come to, because guys, so many people will be like, oh my gosh, you got that price. Well, maybe I'm going to consider to buy my home, sell my home now.
That's already happened for you. That's already been an experience you've had.
And just remember, you're planting a seed. It's not going to be tomorrow. It could be 6 months. It could be 2 years. But regardless, I just want to say, just because it's a neighbor, don't be like, oh, it's a neighbor. No, this is great. And also, however you treat that person, believe me, people talk, okay? Remember that.
True.
So just wanted to say that real quick.
Excellent. Man, so much good stuff. Guys, take just one thing that Tina shared today, plug it into what you're doing right now, and you will see results. Tina, thank you so much for everything you've shared. We are so very lucky to have you here at the brokerage and on our show. Man, it's such an inspiration watching you just soar, and it's really fun working with you too. Thank you all for listening and watching. Like Tina said, if you have successes to share, please let us know. Feel free to reach out, follow us on social media, ask us questions, pick Tina's brain about what she's doing. If you have things that you want that are specific, scripts that we use that work, anything at all, we are more than happy to share. Also, we would be so grateful if you would leave us a review or a comment, or subscribe to us if you're watching on YouTube. Whatever platform that you're watching or listening on, if you follow us, subscribe, or tell us what you think of the show, we would be so very grateful. Thank you so much again for joining us. Until next time, this has been So You Want to Be a Real Estate Agent. Wishing you every success.